Welcome back to Average Neighbors. Man, if you didn't check out last episode, being busy, it's already out and it's fire. A little more vulnerable than usual, but it is fire. If you're on YouTube right now, you know, you see there's someone here. But if you don't, this has been something that we've been cooking up for a while now, for probably a year. And we got a drum roll coming in because it's one of our boys. This boy, Jacob, in the building.
Jacob Lintner.
In the house.
Yo, what's up?
This is hype. We've been trying to get this boy on for a while now. This is an avid listener. He's an average neighbor. And we are so hyped. And this is going to be such a good one. Because my boy Jacob's going to share a little bit about his story, about God's story, and how he's just working. Because I've been talking like this all day. Nah, until I got here, to be honest.
Yeah, why are you talking like that?
I don't know. Like what?
Like that?
Like that? Yeah, I don't know.
Why are you from Winter Park?
Nah, from Wesley Chapel, 813. Shout out, Michael Penix.
Stop.
Shout out, Mike Phoenix. Yeah, thank you guys for having me
Oh,
today.
yeah, hey, Jake.
What's up?
Alright, let's do what we did last time. Forget the cameras here. Like, they're watching, but, like, forget the cameras here. How are you doing? How's your day been? And then, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I've had a long but fruitful day. Yeah, doing pretty well.
What does fruitful mean to you?
It means a lot of prayer, a lot of focus on the Lord,
Oh, he been for real.
and a lot of intentionality. That's what I would call fruitful.
Nice.
Fortnite? Nah.
I don't know, not today.
Alright, here we go.
Not today.
Okay, so it's just weird because I feel like we've talked. So at least how I started hanging out with Jacob, we played Fortnite all through winter break.
We did.
And that whole winter break, you didn't have your Xbox, but
That's it, right?
huh?
Wait, what happened?
You left it.
Yeah, you
I told you, yo, don't forget your Xbox, and then 2 days later, you're like, yo, I forgot my Xbox. Like, all right. So me and Jacob ran the Fortnite.
Wait, how did we meet?
Cody?
Yeah, I think just
it was Cody.
yeah.
Shout out Cody.
Because he was like, well, you just come over. And we just like chit chat.
Yeah, just pull up, watch some football.
Yeah,
Talk.
that was so fun.
That was fun.
Just FSU football, college football,
That was a blast.
sometimes NFL. But not really.
All of the
So-
sorts.
I think, bro, someone's going Chief right now behind. No Chiefs.
No
Anyway.
Chiefs.
Yeah, we were playing Fortnite, and then I remember I was like, bro, I heard you have a crazy testimony. We want you to come on Average Neighbors. And he was like, yeah, bro, I'd like to. And so basically for like 2 weeks, he would give me snippets of his testimony, but I never got the whole story. And it was just like congruent, like just puzzle pieces, but never the whole picture. Ooh.
Yeah, it's facts. Yeah, and I would kind of,
Don't go that.
I would want to like keep getting into it, but I was like, no, like,
So, yeah.
just gotta save it for
So now-
Average Neighbors.
Let it rip.
Let it rip,
Like that.
for sure.
Shout out.
Yeah, it was fun to spend that break. Me and Danny like had met once or twice in person, but like
No way.
we were literally going into break, met like once or twice in person, but we were sitting there till like 1 a.m.
No, bro.
even
Like
later.
3,
Nah,
bro.
yeah,
I fell asleep
My
one
mom's
time.
gonna watch this, bro.
Do you remember one time I fell asleep, bro?
Bro.
He was talking about
Bro.
his test.
Fell asleep?
Bro.
You crazy for that.
He was going like deep into like.
It was crazy. I was like,
Danny?
you feel me? No, literally. I was like, you feel me? And I was like,
No, you
no
was not?
shot. Yes, fully.
Bro, it was like 3 a.m. and we had just like played a lot of Fortnite. And so I just remember there was like a point where I was listening, and then there was a point where I woke up to him being like, yo, Danny? I was like, yo, I'm not gonna lie. No, it was silent. He stayed on me.
Yeah, I was just chilling with them.
The
Yeah.
trooper, he waited
chilling with him.
like 2 minutes, and I was like, yo, Jacob, you still there? He's like, yeah, bro. I'm like, bro, I knocked out. He was like, nah, you good. And so we restarted the story.
It was funny. But we had some late nights, and we were really just diving deep into it though, and then came back, and like it's crazy how that kind of connected us. So it's been pretty cool.
It's been pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
We,
Oh sure.
We might not have caught many dubs in the game, but we caught that dub in life, you know.
That's facts. Hey, me and Riley got one first game we played though. We did.
First game on, we're like, dub. You carried me though.
No.
He's
That's cap. That's cap.
He's so gross.
That's cap.
Are you gonna? Yeah, you got to.
The Fortnite? Yeah, I did for a time play professional Fortnite. Almost. I almost was doing homeschool to be a streamer. Fun fact about my testimony.
That's so fun.
Like I dropped 3 classes out of high school in junior year and was like on the way to dropping all of them and doing full-time streaming.
You were like he was playing with like the pros.
Yeah, big boys. Ninja.
Jacob got a low taper.
Yeah, I was playing with that boy Ninja.
With Ninja?
Ninja.
Did you kill Ninja?
I didn't kill him. I was in the lobby though. I was in the lobbies with him. Yeah, so that was a part. That was a chapter.
Yeah, that was a little chapter.
Yeah,
okay, so if you had to, man, this is all over the place. If you had to start your testimony at one point though, and then work your way through, like where would that be? And then just naturally progress whatever you feel is the most important, whatever you feel is most impactful. Like, yeah, we want to hear what has caused Jacob to start walking with the Lord, following the Lord, and the trials and errors in that, doing so. Yeah,
for sure. I would say the first adversity I faced in my life was my parents divorcing whenever I was 8 years old, and I've always been one to kind of really try to take things on the chin. To be honest, like when it comes to like financial and other forms of adversity, I never really had any struggles. And I was very fortunate and very blessed with 2 very stable parents in that way. But when it came to the divorce, obviously a very tough thing at that age. And that was the first real adversity I faced. And I thought at the time I did a good job coping with that. But I'm still seeing, products from that and things that, God's working on and that. And then I would kind of skip a step and go to 7th grade. 7th grade is when I had my first real health issues. And I'd always struggled I got sick way more than most people got sick and, struggled in that way. But when it came to chronic, severe pain, 7th grade was the point where it really started getting me, and it was in the form of stomach pain. And I eventually developed this stomach pain that was persistent and never eased off. So all of the things that I was involved with, being baseball and hanging out with friends and stuff, I wasn't able to do as much because of this pain. And eventually in 7th grade, to kind of keep it a little bit brief, got to the point where I couldn't go to school anymore. So I missed 84 days of school in 7th grade. And luckily, because of my relationship with the principal, he let me come in. He sent work home and then let me come in and take my final tests, or else I shouldn't have been allowed to pass by any standards to go on to the next grade. So that was 7th grade, and that was the first. That's a very developmental period. Really important to a friend group and just socializing. And these were things that even when I was able to go do stuff, I became so anxious and so nervous that I was going to have a problem or that I was going to have pain. And that kept me from going to these places and, socializing and having that important time of development.
And was there a diagnosis at this time or?
No. So I went through tons of tests, big doctors. That's pretty remnant of what happened later in life, but tons of doctors, and ended with a irritable bowel syndrome diagnosis, which is basically their blanket coverage for we don't know.
Yeah. And I assume that at that time, like, it must have been really stressful. Like, you're in 7th grade, you're probably no older than 12, 13, and like you're going to the hospital for all these exams. I assume that you're not probably as active as you were prior to that. Like that must have been really anxious. I'm assuming. I don't know what was going through your head during that time.
Yeah, 100%. The anxiety when it came to, I played baseball my whole life, and all of a sudden that was fading away. That was my thing. That was my identity at the time. I was a baseball player, athlete kind of guy, and that's what I held on to. Could no longer do that. The school thing, I'd sort of started to make friends through middle school, 6th grade, and that was all fading away. I started to get looked at, honestly, as the weird kid, as the kid that was sickly. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I would never wish on anyone, and something that really affected me. And even when I go to these places, I'm like, oh, those kids are immature as well. They say things. It's not their fault. But I was the sickly kid. And, that caused stress in every area of my life. And really just, that was not good. At that period of time. That's such a foundational period of time that really affected me. So 7th grade came and went. The pain had escalated and was persistent. Missed a season of baseball. Was struggling with that, but eventually through 8th grade and beginning of 9th grade started to ease off, and I started to get back to some normal. And it was a scarred form of normal because I had been through these things, and I still had the anxiety and all these things. Is it going to come back? I don't know why it came. I don't know why it went. Is it going to come back? It's a scary reality. But I began, got into high school baseball. It was awesome. And began to actually get into a friend group and those kind of things.
Can I ask, when things started getting back to normal, did you have a faith at the point where you're like, oh, thank God? No, so you were just going through the motions of
this is all BC.
So would you consider yourself an atheist at this point, agnostic?
I would consider myself, if there was something more lukewarm than lukewarm, I would attend church with my mom every once in a while, but had no opinion, had not heard the gospel, understood the gospel, or had any desire for the gospel.
So a Christmas, Easter agnostic.
Exactly.
Christmas, Easter atheist. You attended church, but you didn't. It was more kind of like when you are in class and the teacher's going off, but you don't know what they're you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to know to
for sure.
gauge that. So you're getting back to the sense of normalcy. You now, like you said, you're starting to play sports again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keep going on about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say when I'm talking about normalcy in that way, normalcy in what I was doing, but how I felt and the anxiety and everything was not normal. I came back with all of that wrapped up, and there had been it was a life of worry, and it was a life of stress, and that affected the sports. I had been a pretty solid baseball player my whole life, and I was still all right, but not. My heart wasn't in it. I was worried. I missed games. I would get so anxious before games. I would throw up.
Really?
All this stuff. And baseball was my thing my whole life. So now not being able to effectively play it and be at the level that I had been caused a ton of anxiety. The friends were awesome, but again, that was where I placed my worth. Was could I play baseball? Could I? Those were the things I held on to in high school. And again, this is far prior to Christ.
Yeah.
And so this going through high school. 9th grade was getting better. 10th grade pretty solid. When COVID hit, obviously a big deal in the world. But I had a small group of friends that I became super close with, and we all hung out. That was probably my most content time of just friendship in the world. Contentment, not contentment in Christ, but contentment of I've been 3 years back to normal, and I've started to find my place with some people. Mm-hmm. And the irony of it all is, as COVID went, I was training. I quit baseball after 10th grade. I actually broke my foot in a pregame ground ball drill. My cleat stuck in the ground. I went to turn to get back in line. You take ground balls, throw it in. I went to turn, crack. I had to literally get carried off the field. Dang. So embarrassing. But that was the last thing I did in baseball. It ended my career because I had already started running a bit. But so it kind of became a new chapter when running came into the picture. And again, COVID hit. I was training big time. I had 1 year of cross country, 1 year of track. Found out I was pretty decent at it. And through COVID, isolation, I was just off by myself training, and I was getting my miles up, all this stuff, looking into running in college. That was something that became a big deal to me. And kind of the irony, if that's the word, I don't know if it is, of my testimony is I spend all COVID training, kind of like a peak time in my life at the time, and it leads right up to prior to the season, 1 week before the season starts, and that's when my pain re-enters the picture.
Okay, and so I'm assuming at this point you kind of are right before this pain. You must be at an overall high on life.
100%.
You going into middle school probably you're like, oh, this is great, and then middle school you face a trial, kind of 2-3 years removed. you see yourself starting to find your niche thing, different than what you did before. It must have been difficult quitting baseball, but like now you found this. Yeah, so this pain comes back. What started happening? What was going on? What did that look like? And yeah, once you get to that, I want to hear like how did that affect your faith? Because up to this point, what we understand is that you were basically atheist. Like you didn't know anything and you didn't have an opinion. So yeah, like what was the climate going on in your life during that time?
Yeah, so a little background. When it comes, being completely honest, when it comes to how I was raised by a dad that was at one point homeless and made it himself. And I was kind of raised in a way of rely on yourself. It's you got this. You have to be mentally strong, because he was, and I looked up to him, and he had gotten it himself. So I would be in this pain and I would just be looking internally. How can I get through this? How can I wear a straight face?
Yeah, tie your bootstraps.
Exactly.
Get going with life.
100%, just that mentality of it's all on me, literally. And that was kind of ingrained in me. So going off of that, in the prior times of pain, I had resorted to that kind of mentality. And again, when I was in 7th grade, obviously I was still young enough to look to my dad and look to my mom and just depend on them. But when it's coming into high school, I'm starting to become more independent. Then it was, okay, I'm going through pain. It's on me to figure this out. So in this time when pain re-entered my life, when it came to right before my senior season of cross country, the climate, I would say, was just heavily, I have college coaches on my phone. I've become somewhat good at running. It's on me to make sure that I'm doing my training, no matter what kind of pain I'm going through. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I have to train through it. These kind of things. And again, when I'm saying the pain re-entered, that kind of starts that story. When that pain re-entered, actually, I'll give the little story. I had been doing amazing, really just turning up on these workouts and stuff. And I'm doing this workout that I had done so many times, and I have this sharp chest pain during this workout. And this is COVID time. This is 2020. So there's a lot of concern there, obviously. So immediately my first thought is, oh, I have COVID. And obviously there's so many question marks for that. So I go get tested. I didn't have it, but then was it a right test? Whatever. All of that anatomy of it. Got another test. Didn't have COVID. And so that begins the journey of this pain. And this pain became increasing and escalating. So going through the beginning of this pain, I would say it was denial, complete denial. I would walk around like I had no problem.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you got that first exam for COVID, because this was at a time when like we thought everything was COVID, like straight up.
Exactly.
And so when you first got that exam and it was negative, did something kind of go back to that 7th grade brain where you were like, this might be that again? Or were you just, like you said, you were in so denial where you were like, must be nothing?
Yeah, I had thoughts of it, but the pain was different. This time it was definitely more sternum, chest, direct pain there, where in 7th grade it was straight lower abdomen. So it didn't come straight to my mind, but it's never, 7th grade's never left my mind in that way. So there was a little bit there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so the pain re-enters. Can you describe like what was the pain, or kind of like, because from what I understand, this was where the start of your medical testimony, your spiritual testimony, and also your current medical trial. Like, can you elaborate kind of on, what was going on?
Yeah, so like I said, started with sudden, I would call it acute chest pain. That's how I would describe it. And that day I described when it started at kind of a train of increasing frequency of that pain. And that pain came with exertion, so running would trigger that pain. And so I ran a whole cross-country season being in pain that later on I found out was very valid, telling myself that it was a not real pain. I got dragged again, and this is my senior season. I've got scholarships, possibly, that I'm working towards, and I've got a team around me that's all seniors, all my boys. So I'm running for them. I'm really focusing on being there for my team. It's like nothing can take me out. It's just that dog, like, you try to just, it's that dog mentality. You just try to talk yourself into like, I gotta be there. I gotta step up for my team. And so I went a whole cross country season. Districts, I got dragged off the course after. I don't have a memory from my districts race. in cross country senior year. Do not have no, just the whole time. And later I found out due to lack of blood flow, I literally was not cognitive. Like, I was without so much blood flow to my brain that I have zero memories of that race. And then after, I got like fully just dragged off the course.
But did you like collapse?
Yes.
So you passed out?
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember. I laid there for like 5 minutes after, having no memory.
Wow.
Like completely blacked out.
So did you pass out from pain or did you pass out from exhaustion?
Combination. But exhaustion.
And you felt this pain throughout the race, I assume?
100%.
The whole time. And was this pain like sharp or was it like more bruised feeling?
I would say the best way to describe it is if you took both of your like pecs and kind of pinched them together, like squeezed them together, like a dagger, kind of right in the middle of your sternum.
Dang.
Just an acute pain. That boy flexing.
I got nothing, bro.
Yeah, it would be like if it was collapsing, kind of on the middle. It's a very stabbing sternum pain.
And sorry, if you'd understand why I got silent if you watch the video. But so yeah, this pain is going on. You passed out in the races. Did you go to get exams? Were you in such now you didn't want exams? How did you end up finding out what it was? What was it? And then, where does God come into that?
Okay. So this whole time, that whole cross-country season, from the pain starting on, was tests. And I would get checked out of school once a week, go get a test. And I was eventually at pretty big facilities getting these tests. And these tests were all coming back normal, every single one. I went, even at one point, I knew I was in pain. But they had me do the stress test, which is like where you get on the treadmill and you exert fully. I broke the record for the whole facility, but was still in the pain. And they looked at everything the whole time. They're like, you are good. You have not a problem wrong with you. But I have to go back each day and live in this pain. So
pass out from the pain.
Yes, faint from the pain, not be able to practice from the pain, actually not be able to eat eventually from the pain. And I'm being told, I think my mom and I one time counted 110 total tests that were completely normal, not a single problem. Everything you could go through, digestive, heart, every single thing.
And that must have been crazy because you have this pain, but in your head you're gaslighting yourself. You're like, well, everybody's saying that I got nothing, but I feel it. Your parents must be saying, do you even have something? Like that must cause not even a lack of identity, a lack of security in the authenticity of what you're feeling.
Yeah, 100%. I would say to focus on an area, that would be the area. So all of the I guess the culmination of all of the factors, like you just stated, plus the expectation of going off to college soon and trying to achieve this scholarship, made for the worst nightmare ever. And going to these tests each day, being in this pain, and then them saying you are good and having to walk out of there being in the same amount of pain, actually increasing, noticing it's getting worse. And then eventually, like you said, the part you hit on completely to a T is the parents thing. My parents have always been my people. Like they always, back in 7th grade, they were my advocates. Like they were there, they knew that I was in pain, and they believed in me. But at a certain point, whenever we've gotten test 50 back and it's normal, and my parents start asking me, like, "Hey, are you sure you're in pain?" That's a very dark reality, because all of a sudden the only people, because my friends already, I hear what my friends say, and you got a stomach problem. I don't understand what's going on in you. But like my parents, they were like hands on. They knew when they start to question, it's that was the
left you feeling alone.
Yeah, the darkest it was.
And I assume that every exam, like you must have been, I mean, you didn't know the Lord, but for lack of better words, you must have been praying that like, yo, can I just get an actual result? Because something's wrong. Yep. You just don't have an answer to it. So you start to feel crazy.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. When you start thinking that real pain is all in your head, and then your parents kind of start to hop on board, they start talking about therapy and stuff for real pain. And this, I'll kind of go off that. So that is my senior year of high school. I go through track as well. The 4x8, we were one of the best teams that our high schools had. And again, I had to gut up and try to run. And I remember the feeling before. I would literally talk into my head, like I would literally tell myself, I don't care if I die in this race. Like I would have to hype myself so much because the amount of pain that I'd be in going into this race, I would have to like tell myself, just like pound into my head, like I don't care if I die, I'm running for my friends. And again, fainted, almost had the EMS at regionals.
Dude, if you never ran track, I'll tell you something. I used to hope I would die before a race. Like I did not want to run. For you to think that during a race, like that shows your level of commitment to that. Because like I ran track because I was a little on the chubbier side and I tried playing basketball. They said no, so I was like, all right. And I would have paid someone to run it for me. So that shows that like that was important to you. Like that was like, no matter the amount of pain, no matter, you know, your biggest supporters now being your questioners, like you were locked in on a goal. And so when I mean we could always, you know, speak. So did you find out? I mean, I know, but for those listening, did you find out what it was? And then what was it? Like what was kind of the explanation to all this going on?
Okay, yeah, so to wrap up, senior year, got through, graduated, had about a month where I was really not much pain, very odd. And then flipped to the other side. We're talking right after I graduate, about June. Eating food then became the problem. Had my biggest testimony experience when it comes to pain is it started to get increasingly worse. Bigger foods like a sandwich would be just really tough on me in comparison to like soup or something like that. And one day I went with my friends. I was in denial again at this point, and I said, I'm gonna just go eat a Firehouse sub. Like I'm just gonna do it. Like I have nothing wrong with me. My mom's saying, oh, you got nothing wrong with you. You're good. I eat a Firehouse sub, and I'm at this place at the beach. And I turned to my friend, I literally was like, it was like an out of body experience. I was in so much pain and so like out of my head, the most lightheaded I've ever been in my life. And I was like, I need to go. I walk to my car, I faint, like completely.
On the wheel.
No, yeah, I sit in the car and I go like this and I faint. And I woke up in my bed like 5 hours later. Whoa. That was the day where my parents were like, okay, like,
maybe.
Like, and they knew, of course they knew, but like we had all these mixed signals coming in. They were like, okay, this is like a big, this is like now. And that day really sparked an increase, not only in pain, it got exponentially worse from there, but in a searching. And it got to the point at the end of the summer where I actually, and this is where God's been provisional, he's been there for me in every way. I had been, obviously, you know, the amount of times I Google searched my symptoms is probably a record, but I had been looking up symptoms, and this runner that went to BYU, his name's Easton Allred, had posted about this thing called MALS, median arcuate ligament syndrome. And I had taken it to a couple high-level doctors and said, hey, do you think I could have this? Because some of the symptoms match. And they all said, no chance that you have this. There's not a single chance. So now, flashback to July 21st of 2021. I go in with my mom. I'm in the most amount of pain. It's now unbearable. I didn't eat for 7 days in a row. Not one piece of food. Couldn't drink water. I go to the ER with a plan based off of what this guy has talked about with his problem. And my plan was to go in and get a CTA scan and use an exhale while doing a CTA when usually they do an inhale. So I go in, we somehow get the CTA going, and I go into this room of hospital doctors and say, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but can I do an exhale on this test where usually it's an inhale to look for this specifically? And they said, yeah, sure. I do this exhale and it comes back with a 95% blockage of my celiac artery, meaning that 95% of the blood flow to my stomach was being cut off by a vascular compression.
So you were eating an adult amount of food with 5% amount of blood flow.
Mm-hmm. From the main artery that goes to your stomach.
So almost no blood going to your stomach.
Mm. And that also supplies other things.
And I mean, like, people might overlook this, but how insane is it that a bunch of doctors, go, there's a no shot you have this. Continue trying other tests. And then when you do have an idea, you go in and you're like, yo, let's try this. And they say yes. Like, that's not normal. That's insane.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's crazy.
What were your parents' reaction? What was everyone's reaction when they found that?
We stood that night. That night was one of the most pivotal nights of my life. I stood, I immediately bawling my eyes out. It was almost like out of a movie, to the point of my life had felt like health-wise, had felt like a lie. Like I had always felt invalidated medically. This is all the way back to 7th grade. And I stood with my mom and my dad in the driveway that night with a diagnosis, and them saying, like, there is a surgery to do for this, and you have a horrible chronic problem that's been going on for years that dates back to 7th grade. And past that. And I stood in my driveway and cried for like an hour straight.
Much relief.
I've never felt more relief in my life. I mean, imagine being told it's all in your head for this long, and you have that bad of a problem, and then you finally, and it wasn't me, like God was so provisional in this. Like, that's the thing, we, like, all the things that lined up that night, like, they weren't going to do it. They're like, we can't do a CTA here. And then for them to just comply with some kid coming in and saying, can I do an exhale instead of inhale? And then it comes back with full results. It was the craziest night. And I've never, the emotions that night were insane.
Wow. And so I assume you get the surgery?
Yes, surgery, it's a very specific thing. So they had to fly doctors in and stuff. So I got scheduled 2 months out. So I had to go off to college.
Was it open heart?
Yes. Well, it was, they were playing with my aorta. So I had at age 17 to sign a living will. I had to detail where my things would go. That was part of the surgery if I died during the surgery, because there's a mortality rate on it. So I had to sign a living will, and I was, again, when I talk about it in reflection, it wasn't funny is not the way to describe it, but it was almost like comical that I was sitting there with my parents at age 17. I was like, what is this? Like, and I even included some like stuff. I was like, my baseball glove and my dad, like stuff like that is like crazy to think about. But at the time I couldn't do anything else other than like laugh at it. I was like, this is insane. But I also knew that the surgery was so necessary if I wanted any resolution to my life. So I go off to college on no food for a period of 68 days. And that's a tough start to college for sure. That's not ideal. But September 21st, I had surgery, and it was open heart, and it was playing with my aorta. What they did is they released the compression. So think of if you were stepping on a hose, and that was basically the compression of my diaphragm to that artery because of just how I was born with it. And that night I got to eat Chick-fil-A in my hospital bed.
The Lord's chicken?
Yeah. Facts. And that was no pain.
I know that Chick-fil-A hit.
Dude, you don't know, bro.
I know that
Chick-fil-A hit, bro. I was grabbing on a chicken. Yeah.
Bro. What was the order? Yeah, what was the order?
It was Chick-fil-A sandwich. It was just the average. Some fries. Yeah.
Milkshake?
Mm-hmm. No milkshake. No milkshake. Nah.
Lemonade?
Probably.
Sweetened?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Polynesian or Chick-fil-A sauce?
Chick-fil-A.
Oh, I'm more of a... Anyway. No, that's crazy. And so, I mean, I guess the whole point of this too is like, where, how, when did God? You know, I assume that during this time, if you're not a believer, up to a point, your probably would be less of a believer because you're like
questioning or just being like, why, or anger, or just like, okay, there must be something more, you know.
Yeah. It was more of the why. It was why me. This is one of the most unique things. It got medically recognized in 2019. They don't even know. I mean, I could walk into the hospital here right now, say what I have, and the odds are they would not have any clue what I'm talking about. So I said, why me? Why me? And throughout post-surgery, when I was back to eating for a good 6 months, there was resolution in the health, but there wasn't resolution spiritually.
Ooh.
At all.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I was able to eat perfectly good in health, but spiritually it was still, what's my thing? It was putting my all into something to have it fade away.
Did you become a believer yet or no?
No.
Okay, so you have surgery, you're not at FSU, so this is about 2 years ago.
Yes, this is freshman year. Yes.
So
Seriously.
just about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And so you have no relationship with God either.
No.
You're just like, well, that was a crazy story part of my life. Now to get back into it, I assume you're probably going to try to get back into running or something of sorts.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually got eating back, got straight back into running, was still in touch with some college coaches about potentially just transferring now that I was.
So you were nasty.
Nah, I would not say.
Bro, nasty.
I was decent and just had a good relationship with some coaches, so I was still in contact with them. I was like, oh, I'm all good again. I can run again. You know, I'm gonna go transfer and continue to pursue that as I planned before. But yeah, the Lord really doesn't come into this until later, which is crazy, very crazy, because it was still it was like I had like just slipped away, somehow gotten through. Like that was my mentality, is like, oh, I'm so glad like somehow I got through that. And then like, oh, so back to life.
There was no consideration of God. You were just like,
no.
You were just like, I slipped through the cracks. I made it. I'm the crazy story.
I was like, I was tough enough to get through that. Okay. My thing, because like I said, when I was brought up, it was like, what can I do? I was like, I did this. Like I somehow got through this. Like that is a crazy story to be in. And of course, I wasn't the one that got me through that. But I was like, this was me. You know.
So when did you realize that you weren't the one that got you through that?
I realized that whenever symptoms came back, and I realized how little control I had over any of it. And in reflection, I looked back to even 7th grade and realized that the whole time I had never had any control over it, and that my toughness or being able to get through it never was to be any credit of actually the resolution, and that wasn't the problem at hand anyways. Like the health's a problem. Like, of course we want to be healthy, but without knowing the Lord, we have a much bigger problem. And that follows like where our priorities go. Like, let's say when I got healthy, like, okay, now I'm healthy, but back to living in the world, like, you know, partying and all of these things that I put my worth in. And, you know, there lies the problem.
Yeah. And so how did you find out about God? Like, because if you didn't know the gospel, yeah, you could have been partying and going out and doing whatnot, but like to someone who doesn't know the Lord, to them that's just a part of life. Like there's nothing inherently wrong with that. So how did you find the gospel? Why did you make the decision to start believing? And how did that affect you continuing and up to today? So it's 3 parts, but first of all, how did you hear about it?
Okay, so this past summer.
Wait, what?
Yeah. I only was saved this past summer.
What?
Yeah. So, no.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like the lead up. Yeah.
Right before junior year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just this past.
Like a couple months
in August, I was baptized. Yeah.
Where?
Back home. So I'll give you the story there.
Yeah, this past summer. Yeah, my bad.
So about, I would say like April, God really started to prick my heart when it came to conviction about stuff. And I don't know why, but I'd seen a lot of stuff, like Bible verses and stuff that was just really resonating with me. I've always been like the guy, like inspirational quotes always hit home. I write stuff down, like put it on my wall, like that kind of stuff. But Bible verses specifically started to really like do something to me. I don't know how to describe that feeling, but it coincides completely, not a coincidence at all, with a friend that I hadn't talked to in a couple years. He posts stuff about his faith on his Instagram story and stuff, and he's involved in ministry back home. And I had like either liked an Instagram story or like slid up and said like something that like, you know, confirmed it. And he shot me a text. This was right when I was about to go home for summer. He said, "Hey man, like, how you doing? I have this Bible study. Like, would you like to come to this Bible study?" And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm interested. Didn't really have anything else going on. And I'd seen so much stuff. This is all within like a week. Like all this stuff had just compiled within like a week. And this guy reached out. I ran with him in high school. Hadn't talked to him in years. And so I go to this Bible study. I put it off. And then later in the summer, I went to this Bible study. And the first time I was there, the main guy was kind of talking and just going through stuff. And the amount of conviction I immediately, I was so convicted the first time I heard the gospel. Like they were they were speaking about the simple gospel of our sin, I walked away from it like so convicted in a great way, and so just becoming the first bit of knowledge of my own sin. And to me, it was like I was pumped, like so excited.
You were excited.
I was excited.
Word.
And I was excited because...
That's not usually the reaction to conviction.
No, but I was excited because in that feeling, and what my heart had gotten like brought into was completely humbled. I've been humbled in my life in every way. Whenever you no longer have health, when you're really sick, like nothing else really, like it doesn't feel like anything else matters. So my heart was in a point where, again, I'm back in pain at this point. I've relapsed. I've gone back to relapse in a health way. So my heart is in this position of being so humble, so wanting for hope, looking for hope, searching for hope in anything. And I went from thing to thing to thing, trying to find it, and these things would just fade away. I would put passions have always been a big thing in my life. Like I, try to find a job or making money, something, it would all fade away. So I hear the gospel, and it sat on my heart, and I attended this Bible study. I was so hungry for this. And even times when I wasn't, I literally asked the main guy, I said, hey, can we just meet and like talk? Can we go through the Bible? Like I want this. I desire this so badly. And we did. And this was all from July to August. In August, I gave my life to Christ.
So you wanted it, but you were more of like, I want to understand it before I like commit to it kind of thing?
Yes, and I felt such a pull on my heart, such a conviction of my sin that was disgusted of sin. Like the things that I was habitually living in so quickly became things that I just...
Did you know it was conviction?
As I was asking this mentor and talking about it, he was describing what that looks like when God starts to change your heart.
So you had this feeling, you didn't have a word for it, and then you're like, yo, I feel this way. He's like, this is the word for it, conviction. And you're like, that makes sense. Wow.
It just became like I could not stand it. It disgusted me. And I noticed that there was kind of a confirmation, because these are things that I'd struggled so much with, these sins, that by myself I was like, I want to quit this habit. I I couldn't do it for years. And then all of a sudden now I don't even desire it. How does that, like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, as a new believer, like, how does that, I've literally tried by my own strength for so long to get out of this. And then all of a sudden, like, I start coming to the Lord and like hearing the gospel, and all of a sudden, like, now I don't even have that desire in my heart. And that really was what sparked my curiosity and really giving my life to Christ, because I was like, that's not me. I tried my best. I did all I could do. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, and to shed light on the situation, you haven't eaten solid food in how long?
August 5th of 2022 was the last time. It's about 550 days, I believe, or 540 days.
So in 540 days, you haven't had a solid meal?
Not one.
Just shakes?
Yes. Same shake.
And for over 300 to 400 of those days, you're not a Christian.
Yes.
So you're just living with any hope just being, maybe this will go away?
Yep.
Because you got a surgery, and if I understood correctly from our other conversations, right now there's actually no diagnosis that we're aware of, until these further tests confirm, negate anything. But like, so for the past 540 days, you've been walking again in that no man's land of, I have a pain, I know it's real, I know something's wrong, but no one knows what's wrong, right?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had national doctors. There's a National Mouse Foundation, and I've went to meet with them in Tennessee and Minnesota, different places. And I've had these doctors that are trying their best and are very knowledgeable tell me that we don't fully know all the intricacies of what it looks like for someone to relapse with their symptoms.
And so there's this, at least not now, but prior, there was this fear of being patient zero for something.
100%.
Is that what they call it, patient zero? Patient one? Like the initial case for something.
Not in the sense of an initial, but in the sense of such a small group that might as well call it initial.
Wow. And are you in pain right now?
Yes.
You're in pain right now?
Yeah.
Like, where?
Right here. Like midline.
While talking, what?
Yeah, like I was at Salt and it was pretty bad. Like,
Did you eat anything?
Did I what?
I mean, obviously you didn't consume food, but like, did you drink anything before?
No, I just had my shake today. But like posture sometimes, if I'm like upright for a long time, standing, like real bad.
And it comes back just as difficult, but you've come to cope with it.
Yeah, I stand in different ways and I do different things.
Wow. And so you get baptized, you give your life to Christ, and now you stop doing these sins. Explain that hope that you found. Explain why someone like yourself can sit here right now. Because a lot of people, I would assume, they give their life to Christ. They're like, all right, where's the diagnosis? All right, where's the healing? You know what I mean? Because you hear about that in the Bible. That's not what compelled you. What compelled you was your conviction now forming you to this new way of life and thinking. But you didn't even receive, in a physical sense, the blessing that most people would expect. Why can you sit here right now in pain, talk about the Lord, and still be willing to glorify his name? Like, what causes you? Explain that.
I can sit here right now in pain with no diagnosis because I know that my permanent residence and my worth isn't in this world. It is in Jesus Christ and my permanent home. We are just visitors here. And I have a promise from God in heaven where there is no pain. And that is where my hope, that is where my whole life lies. I put my all into that. And that my faith is the only thing that gets me through, because from a worldly view of what I have, the rarity of what I have, the pain of what I have, the uniqueness of what I have, it doesn't look good from a world point of view. But my hope doesn't lie in the world point of view of what I have. My hope relies fully on Jesus Christ.
Bro, we're all like tearing up right now. Cause, thank you. I mean,
yeah.
Like, I don't think you understand. Like, I just push the button.
Sorry.
There we go. I don't think you understand. I'm pretty sure you do, actually. Like, the amount of people who wait for something miraculous or something like a healing, and
you're just being faithful. You're literally being a faithful servant.
And that's what it looks like to walk with Jesus. And that's what faith looks like. It's not just this step in a waiting game. It's something that's here now, and it's acknowledging what I'm doing is wrong and realizing that Jesus is the way. And not just of, oh God, you didn't do this, and pointing a finger at him and being like, I'm waiting for you to do this. But it's because of what he's already done for you.
My whole life relies on it. God has positioned my heart to where I am in such a need of the gospel, of that truth, of his promises. He has put my heart in that position that my whole life relies on it. And that is where I put my all in. And I believe honestly, from where I was, it sounds crazy, because if you look at it again from an objective view, it's crazy. But what he took me from to where I am now, the darkness that Jesus took me from to where I am now, even though it involved this, the Lord is so faithful in that way. Having something that could look this bad be something for this good for my eternity, I would do it 10 times. That is so much more important, and that became so apparent to me.
Sure. I think I don't think people realize the spiritual weight of things. No. But you did. And God revealed that to you. I praise the Lord and I thank God for that. Thank you. Because no one realizes the spiritual weight that's going on in their life right now until they face Jesus and get truth. And the wages of sin is death, a spiritual death, which is worse than anything. Eternity in a place that we do not want to be. And we can't even imagine how bad it's going to be. And for the Lord to reveal that to you now, what? And like, I think that why of like why me turns into a different why me. You know?
Exactly.
What does that feel like?
What that is what that looks like is God honestly, being completely honest. I've seen this as such an opportunity. Why did you give me this opportunity of humbleness of heart to be so hungry and thirsty for the gospel, to have everything taken to where I know that the things of this world are already temporary. So when God revealed that to me, I was already in a position where I knew those things were fleeting. Yeah. I knew that the people were fleeting. I started to become in pain before senior year. Everyone left, all my friends. Like all of them, just like that. God showed me these things. I was so hungry for him. He had put me in a position where I knew I was in need of that. Why me? Why am I worthy of that? Of being able to have this perspective? I have done nothing. Like I've been in this pain. I didn't get myself through the pain. I've done nothing, but God gave me this opportunity, and God gave me an opportunity to tell other people, like, being in this pain, that like there is our hope. It is not in anything of this world. Nothing. It all fades, and I've watched it fade away. Mm-hmm. I've watched all of it. I've watched the people. I watched my parents tell me that it's in my head. I've had people refer me to therapy for one of the harshest pains that a person can go through medically, is what I've gone through. And I've had people tell me it's in my head. Go to therapy. I've watched it all fade away. I've watched doctors not have answers. I've watched all of this. And I can tell you that there's not hope in this world, but there's hope in Jesus Christ. Right. Alone. There's nothing else. I've tried. Trust me, I've tried. I've had to try to become dependent on so many things of this world. I've gone through all the deck. Not one thing fulfilled. Not one single thing. But Jesus did. And that's why, like that.
You know, the Bible talks about how, like, the reward isn't of this world. You know what I mean? And how these things are, like you said, fleeting. And so it's encouraging. Because, dude, like, how many times do we complain about, like, silly, stupid things, exams, tests, professors, relationships? Why not me? Why me this? And, like, in a sense, you feel like you have faced death. You faced emotional, physical, spiritual death, and you gained life in that. And so you literally lost everything and gained everything at the same time.
Which is just a point to God.
Yeah. And so, like, it's so convicting. It's so convicting. And, like, seeing your faith and seeing that this happened in August and it's February and you have us tearing up, not because you have, even though you do have a crazy story, it's not that, it's the way that you've come out of that story and so boldly been like, dude, it's Jesus. Like, that, there's so many people, myself included, who our stories is us having, complaining, and gaining more. Yours is having, losing, and still rejoicing in the more, even when it hasn't changed. Because if I understand, your scenario hasn't changed. You just have hope.
I have eternal hope. Yeah. I have eternal hope. My health here hasn't changed, but my spiritual...
You have no fear.
I don't. If God called me to be in this situation for the rest of my life, I will have eternal joy and eternal hope. If that is what God is calling me towards, and I don't speak that over myself because I believe our God is a healer and that he has the ability. I know that. But I also know that if this was my situation for the rest of my life, that my God is faithful and that I have eternal hope and I know where my salvation lies because of what he did, not because of any situation down here.
I mean, there's not many more things we can say, but I want to give you the opportunity to talk to dude, I trust your spirit. I trust where you are spiritually. Whatever you feel like you need to say, you say it, and me and Riley will shut up. And then once you're done, we're like,
Yeah. I would say the thing I grasped for, this is just something to, it's a process of my thought. Something I grasped for was, I would always just look, is anyone else going through a situation like my own? Is anyone suffering like I was suffering? And I've found Jesus Christ, who went through more pain than any of us can ever imagine. My worldly pain that seems so bad. Jesus Christ on the cross for our salvation. The love he had for us is so apparent to me because I've felt extreme pain, but I've never, there is a comparison, that is Jesus Christ, and that shows his love for us. To be able to understand and really through suffering be brought to the Lord has completely humbled me, and just my reverence for the Lord and understanding of his character has just grown so much in that way through my own suffering.
Well, Jacob, I think your story and just your confidence in our Lord Jesus Christ, our Savior Jesus Christ, is a testimony for people to hear. Yeah. And it is so beautiful to see that kind of healing like that. I've never heard a healing like that ever in my life. But I'm encouraging you, and I know this is going to happen, that people are going to relate, and people are going to learn, and people are going to see you and the Lord through you. But you're also going to shine so brightly in the future.
yeah, dude.
And if you've only known the Lord for 7 months, you have so much more to learn, see, and hear from the Lord. But man, there's so many more people who are going to see you and see God because of you, right? And that's the important thing, is the glory be to God. And I'm so excited to watch that and be a part of that. And it's something to look forward to. Like, don't shy away from the gospel.
There's a Bible verse about like the light on the hill, and not to dim it. You've got a bright light, dude. Like I this is not for sure. Like I can't, like, thank you.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, I think the thing about my story is it's so apparent that it's just God. Like, it's just like clear and obvious that it's just God. And I can sit here and tell you, like, in my life, it is so clear and obvious that it is just God.
Praise God. Right. Well, thank you, Jacob. Thank you guys for listening. And if you have questions or want to contact him, please DM us. We'll be tagging him. But I just, God bless you guys. Average Neighbors.
Out.
Yeah.